Pleasant afternoon, everyone. I am Tessa from the Development Academy of the Philippines, and on behalf of the DAP, we welcome you to the second day of the webinar series on human capital development as a driver in improving public sector productivity. Today's webinar is organized by the Center of Excellence on Public Sector Productivity, or COEPSP, of the DAP. This is a new episode of our ongoing Public Sector Productivity Webinars 2023. Through this webinar, we aim to discuss human capital as a driver in influencing public sector productivity. For today's session, our topic is reimagining human capital development in the public sector for an engaged and strengthened workforce. But before we start, we would like to acknowledge our viewers tuning in from our Facebook page and YouTube Live. We can see various agencies participating today coming from Butuan City Water District, DOST NCR, BFP Bataan, Foreign Service Institute, DSWD Field Office 8, LGU of Mabini, Batangas, Office of the Ombudsman. Magandang hapon din po to our agencies from the PRC CDO Regional Office 10, Department of Education, Al-Amana Islamic Investment Bank of the Philippines, Nueva Vizcaya State University, GSIS Tagum City, Cebu Water District, National Commission on Indigenous People, and Sorsogon State University. Again, a warm welcome to all our viewers from different agencies across the Philippines. We also recognize those who are still actively participating in our webinar series since yesterday. A gentle reminder for our dear participants that in order to get an e-certificate of attendance, you must accomplish the session and course evaluation form, which we will be sending at the end of today's session. As usual, we encourage our viewers to write their comments and questions on our Facebook chat box and YouTube live chat section. We'll do our best to accommodate your questions live at the end of our session. Yesterday, we had the privilege of hosting Ms. Emeline Severo, or Director EMS, the Acting Director of the Civil Service Institute. She delivered an enlightening session delving into the future of the public sector workforce and the impactful trends influencing public sector productivity. Allow me to introduce our speaker for this afternoon. She has over 25 years of industry experience through global, regional, and local business projects and operations within multinational companies. She specializes in organization development, focused on integrity-based leadership and team development programs. With a holistic view of people development, she advocates a family-friendly and performance excellence culture through systems thinking, designed interventions, and implementing strategic human resource management practices anchored on timeless work ethics and total quality management principles. She obtained her master's degree in business administration at the Nanyang Technological University in Singapore and her bachelor's degree in computer science at the University of the Philippines. She also completed a graduate certificate program in human resource studies from Cornell University. At present, she's the managing consultant of an OD firm under the trade name of Human Capital Vantage Partners, with its primary operations in the Philippines and Singapore. She also lectures in the Master of Public Administration program at the University of the Philippines' National College of Public Administration and Governance, as well as in the Bachelor of Science in Human Capital Development program at the University of Asia and the Pacific. She's also a business coach in the Entrepreneurial Management program of the School of Management at UANP. All right, without further ado, it is with great pride that we present our resource speaker for this afternoon, Ms. Maria Patricia Berba. Ms. Patricia, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tessa. And I would also like to welcome everyone, all our viewers. Magandang tanghali po sa inyong lahat. No? But anyway, before I start, first of all, thank you so much, Tessa. Meron lang akong parang konting ano doon. Yung, kasi di ba you started with 25 years, kanya naman. So, not all of that is with the multinational. So, part of it is in consulting already. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, okay. Actually, yesterday, I also listened no, to the speakers, si Director Severo, and I would say na it really makes us very optimistic no, about hearing from her no, the current initiatives and the innovations that CSC continue to do no, in order to provide policy guidelines and services no, as the central HR of the government. So, but before we dive in into our uh, related topic, which Ms. Tessa already stated, I would like to ask each one of you to please participate in our like a poll. No, it's just brief with 4 questions on Mentimeter, um, and it's very simple. Kindly just answer yes or no. If yes, it means I fully agree. No? So it's really just yes or no, no. And that fully agree means in a scale of 9 to 10, it's like the perfect 10, no? Or 9 or 10, perfect. No? And if it's no, it's anywhere between 1 to 8, something like that. No? So kindly please answer the 4 questions. Thank you. Oh, nananalo yung yes. Naglalaban yung yes and no. So, okay, has everyone more or less More or less, no? We can see some results, no? Marami na bang naka-complete? So,
We have more than
so okay
200.
na to? This is it, no? More or less, no? We can already, I can comment on it, no? So, okay. Okay, so from what we are seeing in the last few seconds, no, is parang medyo naglalaban sila, no? Yes and no, and it seems na parang mas kakaangat yung yes, no? Which means parang almost perfect, no? Yung state on the ground, no? Based on these limited four questions, no? Okay, so can we end? Pwede na, no? Oo. And then, of course, people can continue to think on their own later on about these questions. No? Thank you very much for your participation, everyone. So, ang purpose lang nun is, aside from icebreaker, to wake you up, no? At the same time, we can't say it's really good news or bad news by just those four questions and with yung yes or no answer lang. It simply tells us the fact that there are some who put no, which is not necessarily bad or negative. It only says that in the very specific area of learning and development in your organization, we're not talking about the whole Philippines, no? There's still some work to do, no? There's still, which is good, no? Which is good because if everyone said yes in all those four questions, di baka wala na tayong reason to have this webinar, di ba? Parang ganun. So, anyway, kidding aside, no? So, okay, let me just open my, so Tessa, I can already open my presentation. So, I will share my screen. Kailangan yung mouse ko medyo lang. Okay. Ay, sorry. I have to, ito, di ba? We practice, I have to share the sound because later we will need some, ayan, paste. Okay, so, ayan. Okay, ayan, lumalabas yung icon. Let me just test. Sorry about that. Lumalabas ba yung icon? Ayan. I think I have to start again. This is the tricky part with this particular share screen. Ay, lumalabas pa rin. Let's see, ah. Okay. Yeah, okay. Thank you very much for your patience. So, okay. So, how will we tackle this session today? Okay. So, I'll just, ito yung question kanina for the teaser. So more than showing you what's the outline of topics, no, because if you notice our theme, no, which is reimagining human capital development for us, an engaged and strengthened public service workforce, no, it's like a research question or research theme. So this is how we will go about it today. So first, just a little bit of intro. I will walk through with you and contextualize our theme. No? But we've already done that actually with the first activity to show na we will focus on learning and development because human capital development is a very broad topic, no? And we hope that ang goal natin dito is within this short time we are together, you can all come home with some takeaways, no? Actionable takeaways in your particular organization. So we need to contextualize and narrow it down. And then we will do it. The approach is we expound the topic by way of key questions. And actually, this is a part also of it, so that just for perspective, because part of what I will be drawing from in this discussion is also my experience as a senior assessor in the Philippine Quality Award and also the Philippine Quality Challenge, which we had early on, no, in the last few years. No? And I'm an avid fan, so this DTI did not, or DAP did not ask me to promote it, but I personally and strongly believe in the total quality management framework, which is the Malcolm Baldrige, and it's the one being used by the Philippine Quality Award. And it's also used in other countries, like the Singapore Quality Award. So the approach there, if you notice, is like it's by criteria questions. So although I will not bring criteria questions here, that is the line of thinking or flow of thought. So through key questions, when we ask the right questions, there's a high chance that we will get good answers when it comes to you crafting your vision of a human capital development for your organization. So that's the rationale behind that. And then, of course, at the end, we'll try to wrap up and have some considerations to go the way forward. So there. Mhm. So, but again, just 1 or 2 seconds lang, because yesterday, the focus was on the envisioned future civil service workforce. No? And I'm sure if you're active with the activities also of CSE, you hear this often as a refrain, this the future, and it's anchored on the ambition to 2040 and also probably the PDP, Philippine Development Plan. So, but anyway, I was thinking we can also take 1 or 2 seconds, maybe three, to to imagine this, to have this vision, but from the of a future ready servant hero, from the perspective of experience. No? So kasi uh, so far the approach is ano ba yung kailangang core values, what are the competencies that are needed by this envisioned servant hero. Now let's look at each one. I invite you to reflect and think of the experience that you uh, want to where you want us to be. No? First, the experience of our citizens, and that also includes you and me. No, even if you are public servants, you are also citizens. You avail of government services as a ordinary citizen as well, etc. The other part is to imagine the experience, your personal experience as a government employee, working with your colleagues. So this is projecting into the future, working with your colleagues in your chosen government unit. And also, we have to consider, because we are in the world, it's a global. We're all interconnected now with other countries. How is it? What is your vision of the experience of the world with the Philippines? Okay, so maybe 3 seconds, let's do that, no? Okay, so that is a bit short, pero I hope uh, we were able to sort of have that image, of our dream for the Philippines and of course the servant hero. So how was that vision? I mean, I'm trying to ask this to each one of you as individuals. Even if I cannot see you, I can imagine you are a lot and coming from different parts of the Philippines, no? But how was it? Is it an experience, a future experience that you really want to experience, no? Or is it a place that you really want to be in? Do you really want to get there? And so we can say, can you say, do you own this vision of the servant hero if you tie it with that? Is it yours? So with this very short exercise, we know that while we welcome the very inspirational, you know, um, sort of vision of a servant hero, we hear often. Uh, when you look at the end goal and just broadly think of where you are now, I'm addressing it as you, that there's a distance that will need to be bridged, between where you are and that future state. And usually it may change, that is change. It may require some arduous effort. And we know development is about change. No one can develop without changing. And then with that, this one, this image we have here before us, development is a journey, and it's not a one-time event. No? So we can also relate this to learning and development initiatives in your particular organization. It's not a one-time event, that, okay, I should already improve with this seminar I've attended. Moreover, we can say that the direction and rate of development determine if we will progress or regress as a person, an organization, or as a nation. Hence, we can say nothing happens by chance, no? More so development. And it is a real choice, no? A concerted effort, no, to decide for it. And it has to be a commitment, no? Because if it will require effort. So therefore, with that, no, I mean, it's obvious, no, practical consideration. What we're saying here is that it is a given. No? This thing we see before us, human capital development is essential for the development of our people, organization, and the nation. It's already a given. We don't need to prove this, no, to get a budget or to show to your or get to show to your bosses, no, or if you're the boss, no, to convince your people, no, that it should be a priority, no? And on the other hand, while it is obvious, there's a wealth of research that supports this fact, no? For example, the relationship between learning and development and employee engagement and productivity. So, but we will not go into that now. And then there are just a very few, because of limited time, very quick one I will flash on screen just to say that let's have a working definition, no? Because the idea here is when you get back, you can also consider these. No? So, yeah, we said earlier, human capital is a big word. It covers a lot. And so I just thought of putting this, projecting this, and this is from the Asian Development Bank. It's true, no? There's a macroeconomic level, microeconomic level, no? But anyway, our focus, which is the one I put in blue highlight, sorry, that's another aspect, but I also want to focus on this point in our session today, that development, in this case, learning and development, no, is not just for productivity. It's not just for the development of the organization, but that goes without saying. No? But it's development is something we want for the sake of it, for the sake of the person. No? There's that intrinsic value um, there. No? So we will see that will get echoed along the way as we have this conversation. No? So, and then also human capital development. Anyway, you can refer to this later. And I also only highlight the training part here, which is usually used as a term for learning and development. And this is a definition that we use it's a working definition we use in University of Asia and the Pacific, since we have a human capital development program there. And then development, no? So this one, this is one of my favorites actually, because since I also teach executive development, and in the training it's about leadership development, this concept of development as a process of maturation. It's not just skills development or competency. It's the idea of competency is wider, and it includes maturing as a person. And I'm actually, it just comes to my mind now, in my group, the group of participants we have now this semester in my course in NCPAG. I was impressed now, because usually I have this getting to know you session with them. And one of the things that was quite salient, it came out among different people, is that they expected the course, which is about executive development, to also help people mature. So I think it's something intuitive. And then competency, as we already know, yeah, I mean, I'm sure in your, many of you are in HR, and that it consists of this, skills, abilities. But like I said, it's more than just skills, no? In fact, what I would add here is it should include, for example, moral competence. So, and then employee engagement. It's not really the best definition, but I just got it from Society for Human Resource Management, no? Which is a good go-to place. But anyway, what I wanted to show here is that um, it's also about a perception. People feel engaged when they have this perception that they are valued in the organization. So what can we pick from here? No? So an organization may be having a lot of initiatives, learning and development, but if not everyone is aware of it, or there's not enough communication, people may not appreciate it, and it may not translate to employee engagement. Something to think about. Okay, so okay. Here, so again, as I said, we just need to contextualize. Um, okay, so the focus for today is learning and development in your respective organizations. No? So, and for that, we'll look at some aspects of an ideal human capital development vision and plan. We, as I said, we will ask questions. Okay, sorry, my pointer is now not working. Okay, so, and then here, it may sound redundant, no? Human capital development. Of course, it's about humans, but we still put here people centered. We will go into that later. No? And then we will have a lot of questions for reflection so that you can apply it in your own organization. You can think through things in relation to your organization. Hmm? So, okay. Here, before we go to the key questions, we'll look at some basic questions now, which probably all of us may ask now once in a while. No? So, but before that, I was thinking of giving a bit of background of our experience, shared experience on a day-to-day basis. So, for example, the saying, people are our greatest asset. I think many of us would agree now. Sometimes it's already overused. But then again, the essence, we should not take for granted that it's still a life principle that should be honored and respected. It's just that this particular saying may sound cliche already, but it is very true. It remains very true. And in connection with that, no, people are fulfilled, and that there's a connection with fulfillment and happiness and engagement are developed, when they develop. On the other hand, we know that on the practical side, to meet work demands, people need learning and development to, for example, effectively prevent and resolve problems, to be able to innovate competently, to transfer knowledge, and even develop other people in the organization. Learning and development needs to happen in the form of interventions in one way or the other. However, again, our experience would show that counterintuitively, learning and development budgets, although in the poll we had earlier, it seems that many said yes, no, they have budgets. Congratulations, no. But the point here is we're talking of prioritization. No? Learning and development budgets often get cut off when it's in dire situation, no? Well, maybe, or if it's not removed altogether. No? And sometimes it's on the pretext that the organizations are dealing with more pressing problems. So there's no, they wouldn't want to think of learning interventions. No. However, when you think more, no, usually those very problems may be caused by people-related issues as well. No? Lack of necessary competence. No? So it becomes a vicious cycle. No? Inefficiencies, rework, and errors. No? So it will just keep repeating itself. No? Moreover, I'm just saying this in a very general way. It does not necessarily apply to each one of you, but most organizational resource draining problems could also be people related. No? I had one of the participants in our course in UP, no, who's a very experienced executive. Like he was saying, when it comes to finance operations, no, he seems to be adept at it, and he has the acumen and feels very comfortable solving this. But when it comes to people, at first he thought, well, it should be easy because I'm a person, I should also know how to solve. But he realized it's not so easy. No? There are a lot of dynamics, no? And so that's what we're saying here. No? Sometimes the biggest problems could be about conflicts, team dissonance, and some of these ordinarily can be abated with team development intervention. So it's also a form of learning and development. On the other hand, creating high performing cultures to a certain extent, can also be achieved through deliberate learning and development interventions on corporate core values. So with that long background, and just for us to be able to visualize things, the question is then is, so why is it, no, that learning and development sometimes still do not make it to the top charts when it comes to budget prioritization? At least it's not the top usually, no? Or communication messaging, no? When it comes to town hall meetings, usually there are other priorities, policies, systems, and practices. Or, so if it does get management attention, we can we can ask. Sometimes we may think, oh, why don't we see the results? No, why is there no return on investment? Uh, why are we not yet there? No, in the same way as the first world countries are. No? And sometimes we might be tempted to think, but parang wala namang nagbabago. Dami namang training, pero it's the same, no? When we get back to work, it's the same. It's the same thing. So we just gave that backdrop, while the intention here is really, we want to shed light together, we will do this, on the criticality of prioritizing learning and development in crafting your organizational strategies for sustainability. No? So you will think, it's in your hands. Yeah, it is. No? And yesterday, I was listening to Director Severo, no? And they have a lot of like work, no, on giving advisories and all that. But while it's true, a lot of things are still work in progress too, like these competency frameworks and all. But it's a collaborative work, no? From the top level guidelines, no, each organization will have to translate that so that via a human capital development vision and plan strategies, in order to trickle down to actual interventions and hopefully results in terms of performance and people development. So this is our main theme, reimagining human capital development in the public sector to engage and strengthen the workforce. So the idea here is, what we hope to do is, from vision to implementation to sustainable reality. I mean, by having a good vision. And we've narrowed, so we now have a common understanding. Okay, our focus is learning and development with this big topic that we have before us. So now we can see one of the central questions that we can derive from the theme today is, what is a good HCD for human capital development and focus on learning and development vision for attaining your organization's envisioned future ready civil service workforce and excellent service, because that's the goal, right? You will provide excellent service, or we, no? I include myself. So, and then of course, it's like nesting questions, no? Because the more we ask more detailed questions, the more it will help us to get actionable plans, to draw actionable plans. So, okay, so that's the main question, the one we projected earlier. And these are, we can say, 3 sub-questions that I thought might help us in considering this topic. So first is, what factors must you consider in crafting your HCD vision? And actually, this is something that I usually bring up in my courses when we are in the topic of effective visioning. So, but here we make it specific for an HCD vision. And the sub-question 2 is, while we are looking at a vision, which is into the future, we also have to look at what are the essential critical competencies that your people need now. And that those competencies will also be useful in crafting your HCD vision. So it's not like we'll wait for that vision to happen before the competencies will be realized in the people. No? We also need to look at the now, because there are certain more important competencies that are needed in order to craft a really good HCD vision. And then the third is about the organizational setup. Because the truth is, when we talk about development, learning and development, it only is going to be effective in so far as your organization is properly set up and has the culture so that people can practice those competencies and they will develop. Because remember, attending seminars will raise our awareness. We will theoretically learn some know-hows of certain skills, but the real battleground and practice is on the ground in the workplace. So you need a good organizational setup for that. And just a tip, because I already said at the start about the Malcolm Baldrige framework. So it will be coming out here because I truly believe that it's a in case we get lost in the discussion, that's why I'm saying it also now. The Malcolm Baldrige business excellence framework. But still a lot depends on how it is implemented. So okay. So what we're saying is we need a compelling HCD vision that is in the end doable and sustainable, no? Not too theoretical. So we focus on the first sub question: what factors must you consider in crafting the HCD vision? So anyway, I'll try to be quicker. So I've just thought of these four things. And probably I'll spend more time on the first, but everything is important. Because before we can think of the future, having the right assumptions, grasping reality the way it is, objectively without bias, is critical, is so crucial in order to come up with a roadmap, or plan for the future. And then, of course, people-centeredness. So, and we will try to go to each one. But I wanted to share a few stories, but let me see, given our time. So let's focus on the first factor, which is having an accurate, of course, it's just an approximation because none of us can really say we can see fully what is happening. Given that we are in a complex world, this VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, and there are additions to that now, new versions of VUCA. So, but of course, we still try to focus on the learning and development. What is the current state of learning and development in your organization? So we need to have a reality check, and aside from knowing where we are, usually there are tools for that. We can get surveys, we can do research, interviews, and assessments are part of it. Audits, but I started with this reality check on problem experience because the daily experiences on the ground are good sources of information to know your current state. And the one thing I wanted to mention here is that, again, many of these things are personal. I mean, in the personal level, because development starts in a personal level, it requires courage and humility. Humility to accept our situation. Because, of course, we always want to have a good picture of where we are. Sometimes when we have to report the situation, we exaggerate a bit, or I don't know. But the important thing is to say the way it is. And winning companies, for example, drawing from that experience of assessing applicants and awardees in the Philippine Quality Award, I'm always impressed because there's a lot of preparation, and and of course, all these are in confidence when the assessment is done. They bear themselves. They really say, and those are the ones who really improve and eventually get an award. But they're not there, shouldn't be there for the award. But they're happy to receive the actual state, to know about the actual state of their organization, and of course to know where areas they can improve. And then knowing where the gaps are from that report, there's a lot of work to be done. That's when the work starts. And there's a need for strength and political will to act on them. And one part is learning and development interventions. So, and it's directly linked with this. reality check is the vital role of stakeholder feedback. So this one could be formal instruments, but the first point I made, which is problem experiences, because many times we um, are not may not I mean it's an inadvertent thing. We may not welcome problems, right? But those are valuable sources. So uh, I have a story regarding this because feedback, I mean, it's obvious when you have instruments, those are formal tools, no, to gather data. But there are various ways of getting feedback. And in fact, there are creative ways. And uh, many years ago in 2002 in Singapore, the Prime Minister, Goh Chok Tong at the time, in his National Day rally speech, no, the speech was entitled Remaking Singapore, Changing Mindsets. So he lauded, no, the Jack Neo who produced this Singaporean comedy entitled "I'm Not Stupid." If you haven't watched it, I hope you get to see it one of these days. I think it's available on YouTube. "I'm Not Stupid," and it really became the second top grosser at the time for movies. But it's a satire about Singapore's education system and social attitudes. No? And because it's a satire, you can imagine it shows, no, it exposes Singapore there to the world, no, uh, what you can consider like defects. No? And but Prime Minister Goh Chok Tong said he watched it, and his wife even watched it 3 times. So he was like promoting it, no. And but the beautiful thing here is, at the end of the day, um, it spurred like political conversations, even debates, but it led to um, important reforms in the education system of the country. And we see it now. Because in those days, there was the streaming, etc. So there's a lot. So what I'm saying is that it's a creative way of giving feedback of what's happening on the ground. So with that, I actually, although I know our time is limited, but I want you to see a very short video. Um, okay. And maybe to wake you up also. So, okay, good one. So, okay. Let's see what happens. Yeah.
Next.
Oops. So, um, I hope you were entertained. So, but anyway, it's also like a satire, and somehow inspired, no, by that experience in Singapore. No? Well, this one uh, could happen anywhere, no? Not necessarily in a public sector organization because it's depicting a customer service, no? It can happen in public service provided by private organizations, no? So and obviously we need not take it literally. It could be something else, no? What's happening. But the thing I want to invite you to do is to ask ourselves, no, on this point about having an accurate view of reality. I'm sure it would vary among yourselves, no, across agencies and organizations. So this is the only thing we want to ask. No? What is the reality in your organization? And on that point, no, the vital role of stakeholder feedback, I will also would like to quote because I watched this video of Commissioner Lizada of CSC on the occasion of the contact center ng Bayan Recognition Program. I was super impressed, no, about the awardees. But there she said, feedback is crucial for us to understand our stakeholders' experiences in order to truly satisfy our clients, along with the continuous re-engineering of our system and procedures. So there, no, feedback, the importance of feedback, which can come in many different forms, but usually complaints or suggestions, no, from our stakeholders. So, okay. And there are a lot of other questions. I mean, this is just like to tickle our minds, no, to ask the right questions. But I have a few other questions that I wanted to post or to share, but I think I need to speed up also, no, so we can cover. So, and then this is still part of what factors to consider in a good vision, right? So, um, we need to have, we need to evaluate the effectiveness of our current, which is obvious, no, learning and development initiatives. No? So there are a lot of related questions to ask there. It could be uh, if you have a host of initiatives right now or activities, it's to ask how do you evaluate, no, if it really translates to competencies or performance at work, no, in the workplace. Or you can ask questions like, how do you plan the list of L&D activities in your organization? Or a question to ask is everyone, workforce segments included in the L&D, learning and development activities, including JOs, contractuals, and people who are not permanent in the organization, etc. Leaders and non-leaders. So there. So, and then of course, we have to consider a holistic view of learning and development. And this springs from the idea that um, learning and development is not just for organization development, but for the authentic development of every person. So, so very briefly, so that's why we call it a people-centered human capital development, because there's a difference between being people-centered or versus task-centered. And mm, by default, many times without realizing it, we behave with a task-oriented approach at work. Okay, so, okay, but I will not expound on this. And the part of people-centeredness in human capital development is, as we said, no, personal development. And these are the key points, no? I put here development and practice of competencies, no? And then we use the word maturation here. No? I mean, there are programs that are also designed for people to develop virtues, no? Although most of this we may acquire in the family or in social circles, no? But it can be complemented with well-designed learning and development programs as well. And yeah. And then, of course, on the side of organization development, these are the things that we have to look for, no? To take into account in crafting that HCD vision. So, I mean, these are quite self-explanatory. So I may not, they're like best practices. No? I mean, key features in a good vision. No? So, for example, sponsorship from the highest level of authority. No? This is part of the person's messaging. No? When there are meetings, it will show if it's a priority in the organization. Okay. And then, of course, it has to be strategy aligned. No? So I just put here some images, which already it shows you, when you craft, you look at the bigger picture, the ambition for the whole Philippines, but not only the Philippines. That's why I also thought of including the GRI, sustainability reports, or the G20. G20, the summit, it happens every year. The Philippines may not be included, but looking at the outputs there, there's a lot that we can also draw for our own planning. So, and then what are the most essential competencies? Okay, so again, I have to. So here, I want to introduce some of like the main meat of what I want to share with you. Because although there's a whole range of competencies that we can talk about, and per job, the goal of the Philippines is to come up with a competency framework for each, and it's already there. I mean, Singapore is already there, and some of the developed countries. But here, I only want to focus on what we can consider the most important, in my opinion, and that can help in your crafting your HCD vision. So, what do these mean? No? So, the first, hierarchy of knowledge, values, and competencies. No? So, I consider this, I look at it this way. There's a hierarchy because precisely we can get overwhelmed. Hey, there's a lot of competencies. Where do we start? And sometimes, we just arbitrarily choose which one is most in demand now, competencies. So while skills development is very important, of course, but probably we can consider that in a certain level, no? Maybe in the top level there, but the foundation is what I consider most important. No? That's where you learn in this lowest level, uh, and those are transferable. Whatever work, those you can use that. No? That's the level where people their values can take root. No? So if the organization want people to be deeply rooted on the core values, it would help to have some um, programs for that too. No? Okay, so anyway, this is the main point here. There's a hierarchy. Okay. And then, well, I'm also a believer of the importance of systems thinking. We hear about this a lot. And I think I consider myself blessed that I've been teaching this in the last few years in academia. And more than I learn all the time, no, that there's a lot of applications in life and, of course, in the workplace. Um, because it helps us to, in fact, it's systems thinking that will help us change mindsets. Many times, you hear from people, the problem is really mindset. But with systems thinking, we see new horizons and see how it works. Okay. And then I move on to the last component, which is the organizational setup. So, well, it's my opinion that a good model to use, because it's tried and tested globally, is this Malcolm Baldrige framework that is used in the Philippine Quality Award. As it was already covered in your previous webinars, so I will not go into that. All areas in the business, because it's precisely on total quality management, are covered here, using this framework for assessment and for development. And its values are embedded in the framework. And I could even claim to say that the model is systems thinking design, and it continues to evolve. No? It's not a static framework. Every so often there are updates, and there are also like contextualizations for different industries, but there's also a general version of it. So anyway, I thought of showing here some of the criteria questions, no? Because like I said, it's all about questions, asking the right questions related to learning and development. So in the category 5, which is about for workforce, these are some of the questions. Some of you may be familiar if you've already gone through the process of Philippine Quality Award. But for those who are not, I encourage you to do so. So, and these are principle based, and there's a lot that you can draw from each big question. So that's all. And then, so we're about to end now, I just want to say that it's an iterative process. It may not even be linear like this because systems thinking is not about linear, it's non-linear thinking. But we can consider that here you're anchored on a mission, the vision, and you research on trends and on the ground, get feedback, and then design learning and development. No? So, and then that produces engagement, no? People commitment, and then applying systems strategic thinking because it goes hand in hand or inseparable. In fact, I consider systems thinking bigger than strategic thinking, and that's where proper decisions are made. And then you have results. No? I mean, this is just a simplistic way of putting together the things that we have covered. And then also another thing to ask is, so what if we don't do anything? We're already happy. You know, we think we can say yes in all those. Of course, it's only 4 questions now. What happens now if we don't invest to develop more because we think we're already okay? I mean, of course, I'm exaggerating. I'm sure no one is saying that. Well, and old ways, no? Maybe this is not happening with us, but we know it's happening in some parts of our country, no? Certain defects in the culture. But what happens? Looking at the big picture, it's the whole nation that suffers. No? So L&D, learning and development, human capital development, broadly speaking, is a must. And not in incremental ways. We really need to have a good vision and work for it, no? Work towards it. So okay, to end, no? I hope, I mean, there's a lot really to cover still, but at the end, no, I hope we get confirmed, we know this, no, reaffirm, no, that transformation can only happen first at the personal level, no, level of each person, and then agency, no, and then or organization, and then only eventually as a nation. While it's true that it can go faster if it starts from the leaders and their role is vital, but each person has to own that vision and that commitment. And we need that sound, operable, sustainable vision so that we have a place to go to, while not neglecting the importance of starting with an accurate view of reality. So we can say the future is in each one of us. Uh, it's up to us what we make of it. So this is something that I've used for different audiences. But a lot depends on how we view the world, how we view our organization, how we view ourselves, our roles, and what we can contribute to the to the community, to society. And I believe, just to recap, that systems thinking as a competency is very important, but also the one I was referring to on the life principles, and I call it life guiding principles, is as critical, if not more important. That's the level 5. And of course, having a business excellence model for total quality management is also important for to have a culture of excellence and everything integrated in harmony. So hopefully each one of us can go back with this last question. No? And sorry, I took up so much time, but the last slide is, since this is the last slide is the favorite of my mentor since I was a kid. No? And so I thought I will also show it. He always presents this when he gets invited in big audiences like yours. And I also think it's a cute one. But when I checked, it was drawn from a person named, what's his name? He's a former president of Columbia University. So this is something we can ask ourselves. No? So with this, I end. Yeah, I have to admit the topic is really like a research question. So I have a lot of things that I wanted to share. So, but I know the time is. So Tessa, how is it?
So, thank you very much, Ms. Patricia, for delivering such an informative and
Uh,
enlightening presentation for us this afternoon. Really embracing innovation and strategic human capital development is essential in today's rapidly evolving public sector landscape. Also, that investing in people is really an investment in our nation's success. Thank you very much.
mhm.
If that's okay, we will only ask 1 to 2 questions for
Sure, sure. I hope I can. Yeah.
like, we're getting a lot of questions from our viewers, but
Oo.
these are the first ones from Miss Josephine of Facebook's. Her question is, how can one adapt changes if management doesn't want to support or is not very supportive?
Yes. Of course, there's no one answer there because in the end it depends on the context of the organization, right? But what top of comes to my mind, top of mind is it's true. You need to have an endorser. It doesn't. The best is a top person, but there are other people within the hierarchy as well, or influencers. It doesn't even have to equate to a certain position. If you can get to someone who believes also, and it will require a lot of communication, a lot of convincing, and a lot of, it's not fast. It's not a quick thing. You have a higher chance of getting to the right people, the right decision makers. So yeah, that's the top of mind. Um, yes, because for sure you will find people who will agree with you. It's just that you need to present benefits, best practices, probably things that are positive, why they should believe. And in fact, that idea of believing also comes in systems thinking because precisely about change of mindset. Yeah. So,
We have another question from from YouTube. One question from YouTube from Miss Cecilia Gascon. How can we plan for a sustainable training program to develop our personnel if investing in the learning and development of the non-regular personnel will be subject to COA audit because of no
mhm.
employer policy of the CSC? Although this is CSC specific, ma'am, I hope you can answer it.
Yes. Yeah. But I mean, just these are just insights. It's true, no? Certain things there's no immediate solution. And in fact, in our class, we talk about. I mean, in executive development class, no, we talk about the importance of context. No, so it's very different in a private organization, in a government organization, and each organization is still unique, no. But something specific to organizations in public sector is that the policies no are sometimes could be stringent, right? And it doesn't have much flexibility in terms of updating, no? And it's only certain people who have access to that. So it's a long, long path of it. May you may not see the solution right away. One path is the long term. It's giving feedback because it's the government is more and more being aware of the need for ground up, no, in policy making. So that's the long way, no. But there are other ways of giving feedback precisely, no. But there are also other ways of including them. We just need to be creative so that, I think yesterday, Director Severo mentioned about development in CSC. They include the JOs and contractuals, and not some of these do not necessarily require a lot of financial resources. So I mean, that's the low lying fruit. No, it's something that you can immediately do. Coaching, right? And yeah, no, and internally organized learning and development like that. But
So
but the important thing is they feel they are valued, as we have seen in the definition of employee engagement, right? There's an element of perception, and it has to be grounded on reality. So
right. So creative feedbacking is the key for this.
maybe a video they can show. Maybe I can show you some of my other videos. Joking.
The
Yeah.
last one, it's not a question, but it's a comment that we would like to share with you from Mr. Michael Kabuatan. He said that I love this framework, which reiterates the importance of strategy aligning with change management and stakeholder buy-in, and employee engagement and the role of the self. So he wants to thank you, ma'am, for your
Thank
presentation.
you too. Thank you too. Yeah, so come on. I hope you all apply sa PQA, and but even if you don't apply yet, you can use the framework already. These resources are available in the website of TTI, and I think the AAP also have some resources.
Again, I think that's the last question that we can accommodate for this afternoon due to time constraints. But thank you so much, Miss
Thank
Patricia,
you.
for
Thank you.
answering all the inquiries going from our viewers. Again, we would like to thank you for accepting our invitation and for sharing your valuable insights and experiences with us. Thank you
Yeah.
very
And
much.
I think if they have questions, they can also email the AP, and at least what are
Yes.
their concerns.
So we can
Thank
connect
you.
also with Miss Patricia. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you
Thank you
very
very much. Okay.
For our participants, you may receive your e-certificate of attendance once you have completed and passed the evaluation form and exam. The link to the Unified 2-Day evaluation and exam is posted and pinned on the comment section and chat box of our Facebook and YouTube accounts. Thank you very much for joining us and for your continued support. We look forward to seeing you again in our next webinar. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you, Tessa.